Ladies and gentlemen, today is indeed a good bonanza day because we have yet another leaders discussion on the topic technology and platform choices to open up innovation. Our speakers for this discussion are Ananth Chandramouli, Managing Director, India Business Unit, Capgemini. He's responsible for formulating go-to-market strategies, driving revenue growth, managing client relationships, collaborating with partners, developing talent, and overseeing the overall India market P&L. We also have with us Tushar Shah, Senior Vice President, Platform Engineering, PayPal. Tushar is a business leader with years of experience in delivering large, complex, enterprise-wide programs with the use of technology and business process management to effectively deliver the desired business case outcomes. Joining them is Ushasri T.S., Senior Vice President and General Manager, Manhattan Associates. She's responsible for the company's strategic direction, growth, and development in India. Manhattan Associates India operations play a critical role in developing leading-edge integrated supply chain technology platform solutions and deploying the same. Chairing the session is Gaurav Gupta, partner and GCC industry leader, Deloitte India. Gaurav is a partner, as I mentioned, with 21 plus years of experience in advising clients in areas of operating model design, global capacity centers, global business services, M&A, business transformation across various sectors. Pleasure to have you all join us here this evening. Gaurav, the floor is all yours. Over to you.
Thank you, Justin, and thank you, nasscom, for this opportunity as part of the GCC Conclave that's become such an important platform given the significance GCCs have been gaining globally as well as in India. Like Justin introduced the panel, we've got an esteemed panel here. But let me quickly introduce the topic as well. And, over the last few years, as you all know, that innovation has been gaining a lot of significance, whether it's in terms of front-end, products, services, interacting with customers, or in terms of how organizations work, or in terms of even how we connect and work with our partners, right, or the ecosystem. So, and given that technology is kind of literally the backbone of any organization today, there is a significant role that technology and platform choices are now playing in terms of driving innovation. So today we have a panel, that's going to share their experiences, their views on how their journeys have been like, how their tech stacks and platform choices are influencing or helping them drive more innovation within the organization. And I'll request our panel, to share their views. And before that, also just do a quick introduction in terms of, what they're doing and what is their focus area. So let me start with you, Usha. Again, I think specifically in supply chain, there has been a lot of disruption and innovation, including because of COVID over the last few years. So how are your tech and platform choices defining innovation within Manhattan Associates? And what are any specific examples or use cases that you can share with the team here?
You asked the question about what drives our innovation. And what drives our innovation is our customer need to adapt to dynamic demands of business. You mentioned about supply chain and the pandemic and the kind of things that are happening. And supply chains are even more important. And the expectations are scale, velocity, and something I would name as elasticity. This has inspired us to move to the cloud architecture. Now, if I talk about this architecture, we want something native to cloud technology, and hence microservices on cloud that to be considered. Okay. Now, if we also look at the software per se today, we are in the digital world and applications are expected to be available on all devices all the time, 99.9% availability, and upgrade continuously, delivering new features. And this is the kind of world we live in. Manhattan Associates, if we talk about, they have been delivering applications and platforms for a long time. Our platform, supply chain process platform came in 2010, and we had developed applications which integrated seamlessly, and that has been going on for some time, and we realized that the new requirements that are emerging require us to have a totally different architecture. So our cloud platform came about. what we call as active cloud platform. And MA Active Solutions and Cloud Native Platform debuted from 2018 onwards. Okay. Our platform and our delivery processes combined ensures that we're always current at the lowest possible cost. Total cost of ownership is a matter of focus for us. So we have moved from shared processes to loosely coupled solutions. We have moved to microservices, and this kind of approach has made us scale very well and also deliver more solutions which are
Sure. Okay. No, great. I think what you're saying is agility and ability to develop micro solutions on the platform became a lot easy. No, that's great to know. In fact, let me ask Tushar, while we talked about supply chains getting disrupted during the COVID times, payment as an industry got disrupted much earlier, right? And it's been continuously evolving. And, innovation is a big play, and platform in itself is a big play in the payment space. So, Tushar, can you tell us about your journey and, how your tech stack and platform choices are getting influenced because of this innovation that the market is driving?
Sure. So thank you, Gaurav, for the invite, as well as nasscom for the participation in this this panel. As many of you know, PayPal is a global company, a two-sided network of both consumers and merchants. And as you mentioned, we obviously are a big player in the payment space, but offer full-scale capabilities around financial services and the like. And as you mentioned, there has been a lot of disruption in the payment space. We've seen it, as now people are using digital wallets and moving away from physical cash and credit cards. And I think Usha even mentioned, right, that the whole contactless payment approach. And so we've seen a lot more capabilities around tokenization and vaulting of financial instruments in electronic format versus using a physical format. We've also just seen that there's an evolution in how merchants and consumers want to interact with one another. And you see now, especially in India and China and now in the US, the whole takeoff of QRC and contactless and kind of mobile payment activities via taking out some type of a physical instrument to make a payment. So these are all areas of huge innovation that, clearly we play a part in and are involved in. We've seen that the pandemic has really accelerated certain aspects of what was core to our business and what we saw happening, which was people moving much more digital. With people not being able to leave their homes, right? People were now having to need a method in which they had to pay their contractors or people that they needed to pay invoices for. So there was a lot more increase in P2P payments. And so just like Usha mentioned, we ourselves also are going through a huge transformational journey towards more of a platform and services-based architecture, moving all of our capabilities to the cloud and making them cloud-enabled. Especially with our global footprint, having that cloud enablement capability is extremely important to be able to distribute and deliver services in a timely and in a great customer experience way. I would also just say that we're seeing a lot of the traditional banking services also get disrupted, right? So traditionally FX and payout capabilities were typically offered by banks within their merchant services organizations. And now there are tons of startups out there doing a lot of these FX conversion related activities because it's a global marketplace, right? The internet has opened up that global footprint. And so as we think about our platform and our services, it's not only what we need to do to support our internal business, but we are also moving towards platform as a service, where we're actually now offering these capabilities to merchants and consumers, whether that be risk as a service or FX as a service or compliance and so on and so forth. So the extensibility of building towards platform and services allows you to enable that growth, not only internally, but also externally as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. I think, especially as you're talking about diverse growth happening, I think it gives you more flexibility. Yeah. Okay. Ananth, over to you. Usha talked about supply chain, Tushar talked about payments, but you've got a far wider view, right? So as you look at some of the other sectors, some of the other functional areas, what kind of innovation and tech and platform choices are you seeing as well?
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here today. I'll start with a couple of examples in the non-FS sectors. The first one is an FMCG client of ours, which was earlier having disparate systems for their brand management, okay, in different geographies. They created a unified platform to manage all their brands across all the geographies. Okay, so it included identifying the trends and opportunities through social media listening, then creation of new brands, launching of those new brands, and then activating campaigns and so on and so forth. So this brand platform actually kind of helped them multifold. One is, of course, having a kind of a consistent and common process across all the geographies. The second one is, of course, having a technology infrastructure which has economies of scale resulted in cost savings. And the last and important one is the ability for them to glean insights from data from across all brands and all geographies. That became a great competitive advantage for them, right? So all the brand owners love this platform. And in fact, the tagline of this platform is, "We got answers, what's your question?" Right? So this is something within the enterprise. An example of outside the enterprise is, Capgemini was involved in, involved along with Paris Regional Transport Authority to create an urban mobility platform solution called MAX, which is mobility as an experience. Right. So this basically brought in multiple, single mode mobility providers like the public transport operators, the metros and buses, then the cab hailing apps, ride sharing apps, the free floating bikes and scooters and parking services and whatnot. Right. So this platform became a kind of a platform of choice for all these providers who otherwise could not, provide what the consumers want, because I want to move from point A to point B, right? And it made sense for the consumers to hop onto the platform, right? So, but more importantly, I think based on the travel patterns and the data that was actually kind of generated, some new additional services to the consumers could also be provided, whereby new service providers could hop onto the platform. So in a nutshell, Gaurav, what I'm trying to get to is, irrespective of the sector, I think enterprises need to understand the scenarios under which it is beneficial for them to choose a platform-based approach rather than kind of an independent application-based approach. The advantages of the platform itself is very, very clear, right? I think I could think three of them. One is the ability of the platform to attract both consumers as well as the service providers. This is the network and ecosystem effect. Second is the ability of the platform to foster creation of value, whereby the whole becomes bigger than the sum of the parts. And lastly, it becomes very easy for the service providers to plug and play their systems into a platform, right? So this way, I strongly believe, I think the platform-based approach is for here to stay, but the enterprises need to know what is the right use case scenario for them to go with this approach, Gaurav.
Sure. No, interesting. In fact, Ananth, you make an interesting point that, obviously platform has its advantages, but at the same time, it might not be the only choice available in certain scenarios, right? So let me draw Tushar on that, and then later maybe Usha, I'll ask you the same question. Is what are the challenges that you're seeing in terms of trying to drive innovation using a platform-based approach, or, when you have a defined platform, then how do your innovation choices get limited? And how are you handling that? If you can talk about any specific examples.
Yeah, I think it's not a per se a limitation with moving towards a platform-based architecture. Mm-hmm. I think the challenge is, how do you juggle both the functional and non-functional requirements, right? Because when you think about platform play, there's a lot more involved from a technology perspective with regards to, like I said, trying to move a platform or build a platform in a cloud. What are the different cloud choices and components? Right now, cloud providers are providing a lot of core infrastructure and capabilities, whether you're using GCP or Amazon or the like, or Microsoft. And so really understanding the tech stacks that are now available to you in the cloud as you think about your platform strategy around databases, messaging architecture, machine learning, and those types of aspects. And then ultimately, you also need your platform is really developing and delivering business functionality, right? That is the core capability of what a platform should be doing, which is delivering to a customer need and a customer use cases. And so really, I think, Gaurav, the challenge is more around the juggling of that non-functional and functional requirements, and how do you draw the necessary development space for when the developers and your platform architects are looking at how do you, for example, in a certain sprint or development lifecycle, make some certain trade-offs and say, during this sprint, 30% of this is going to be functional and the 70% is going to be non-functional, because the platform needs to be built out in some order and fashion before we build the functionality on top of that. So I think that's really where we see, at least here at PayPal, and what I've had conversations with my peers, is that's really the challenge, is how do you really juggle those business requirements and the technical requirements that you need to do to be able to deliver a robust platform at scale.
Sure. And if I can ask an additional question here, given what you just said, and also Usha mentioned about the flexibility that comes with the platform upfront, right? Now, but there is a time it takes for you to establish a platform, right? So I think organizations at various stages will probably end up making also different choices depending on where they are on the evolution curve, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I think, many of us are dealing with existing platforms and capabilities that we have, and many of them have been built essentially in our own data centers, in our own ecosystems, and now there's a need, obviously, like I mentioned, moving to the cloud, and especially if you're providing services to third parties, many of those third parties are leveraging the cloud themselves. And so I think the challenge there really is, do you make a decision to try to take a platform that's existing, typically that's existed in a single data center or your own data center environments, using your own infrastructure, your own sets of messaging architecture, and now try to say, okay, we're going to now port this platform to the cloud, or do we actually start from scratch? And I think that's part of some of the discussions that tech teams and technology organizations go through to figure out, is it easier to lift and shift, or is it really potentially easier to start from scratch and really do something right at scale, especially with what's being made available to our technologists from an enablement perspective. But I think what we've seen is that it really is a hybrid. And in some cases, there are things that are proprietary in nature, right? So for example, our risk capability is considered world-class and very proprietary. And so I don't know that we would be leveraging a large portion of, for example, the ML AI capabilities that could be coming from a cloud provider, because we would be concerned about the amount of intellectual capital we might be sharing with a cloud provider around how we do our modeling and our decisioning and our rules capability and those types of things. So really also making decisions around what do you actually take and just leverage from the cloud ecosystem 100% versus what do you do in a hybrid mode where you potentially leverage the infrastructure, but the core functionality and capabilities stay within your four walls of your company because you want to protect the IP.
Yeah, no, interesting. So Usha, just your views on, and I know you talked about some of the benefits, flexibility, time to market, and microservices as option, but I'm sure this journey has been full of challenges for you as well, right? So can you share some challenges that you went through or you see with a platform-based approach?
Yeah, Gaurav. We had been on the cloud architecture, re-architecting for cloud, software as a service. And this journey has been on for several years. The kind of learnings that we have, I wouldn't say challenges alone, but there are also learnings. One of the learning is related to people. Mindset change to new ways to deliver a service. Okay, in the monolithic world, you deliver in a particular way, and when you are now re-architecting and redesigning your whole solution to be delivered very differently, the culture change has to be brought up. And what is the business outcomes that we're expecting? How do we design that? Then critical thinking, very, very important. I would lay a lot of emphasis on that, because towards MTTR of services have to be up and running all the time. Then when you design them for high availability. Okay, that's very important. And teams have to be trained on how they manage it, because these solutions and the operations, cloud operations, are very, very important. And security, I can't lay more emphasis on security. And when we develop these kind of solutions, we are responsible for customer data. Okay. Very, very critical. Through continuous security training and learnings on attacks and mock security drills and tighter resource management. This is what I'll tell about the teams that people we have trained on all these aspects, held a lot of workshops. The processes, customer not fully ready to adapt the speed of delivery. Sometimes it is not that on the customer side, they understand everything about how we are going to deliver differently and they're ready for it. The stakeholders from the customer side have to absorb the speed of new business features being delivered. We're delivering a lot of innovation, right? Continuously, okay? Because you have this tenet of continuous integration and continuous delivery. The mindset of continuous adoption of code drops as code drops when customers still have sometimes the waterfall or milestone-based deployment. And now they have to understand that these things are going to be done very differently. And then streaming of code, are they ready? So that is something that you look at it. So if you look at internally also, exponential increase in services, then expectation of 99.9% availability, version agnostic components. We say that our solutions are, our software is versionless, okay? So how do you do that? How do you deliver it? It is continuously getting upgraded. Zero downtime upgrades that is happening, and fixes are being given continuously, all of this. And managing SLAs, service level agreements, across third-party subsystems is also a challenge. If the third-party subsystem don't have the architecture to complement the scale and elasticity of what we are delivering, then how do we bridge that? How do you make that as an overall system feasible? We have realized that during our peak season, where parcel services, by the distribution companies couldn't scale up to the demand, which our system was scaling, resulting in SLA breaches. So these kind of things happen. So these are all the learnings and what one should be ready for. Platforms are powerful, but be ready to also tackle the challenges.
Yeah, so interesting. So just one additional question, if I can ask Usha, you, and maybe Tushar, you can also pitch in. A lot of what we talked about in terms of innovation sometimes is external to the organization, right? Products, services, customer interaction. But do you see platforms being used for innovation in terms of how organizations are delivering work as well?
Okay, if the question is internal to the organization, how
Yes.
we deliver, yes, we use similar approach. Of course, we use various solutions for some of the things that we do. But if we look at our own innovation, engineering, and development that we do, okay, we follow the principles very much. I mentioned CI/CD, but otherwise we have developed our own platform on top of the cloud platforms, okay? All of this has been developed by our teams overall, from here as well as globally, working together.
Sure, okay, great.
Yeah, I would say the same. I think the situation is that we, there are business processes and use cases within our companies, right? Whether they be in operations, corporate support functions, and so platforms and enablement is critical there as well.
Sure, okay. Ananth, changing gears, we talked about innovation internally within the organization and developing, but there is an ecosystem play here. If you look at the Indian market, There are a lot of startups now, right, which are driving a lot of innovation in terms of products and services. Do you think that startups fit into a platform play as well, or it is difficult to bring in startups when there is a platform versus a tech stack play?
Gaurav, I think the Indian startup ecosystem have come of age. I think there's tremendous amount of innovation that is happening. And I strongly believe they are absolutely part of the innovation ecosystem for large enterprises as well. So I'll give our own example. So in Capgemini, we have a setup called Applied Innovation Exchange, AIE, okay, which itself is a platform that we offer for driving innovation in our clients in a much more structured fashion. So an AIE kind of consists of innovation process management for idea generation. It also has, ability to kind of devise solutions in terms of proof of concepts, minimum viable products, and so on and so forth, and deploying them at scale. And lastly, sustaining this entire innovation process through cultural leadership and proficiency development, right? So this is the kind of a complete package that we kind of offer as a platform. Now, this AIE is a network of about, multiple AIEs across the globe. In India, we have got a couple. Each one of these AIEs have dozens of startups as part of our ecosystem, right? So an example is a Canadian quick service restaurant chain came to us with a problem statement of, hey, how do I kind of continuously improve my customer experience, reducing their wait times at the restaurant, etc., right? So for this, okay, as we kind of went through the ideation process, we involved 2 food tech startups, okay, very interesting ones, and both of them based out of India. One of them looked at an AI-based intelligent demand prediction. Okay, so they use traffic patterns, weather, holidays near that QSR branch, and come up with real-time demand in 15-minute intervals for all the food products that you have in that QSR. So what it actually enables the crew in that branch is to be prepared with those products well in advance of your customers coming in. Okay, the other startup actually specializes in the point of sale. Okay, it improves customer experience tremendously by reducing the queues and so on and so forth, right? So with this, what we play, Gaurav, is the role of an intelligent assembler, okay, if I may say, with the support of startups that ultimately provide an innovative solution and competitive advantage to our clients.
Sure, thank you. A question to Usha and Tushar. We talk about innovation, we talk about technology platforms, and GCCs in their world today are driving a lot of tech as well as innovation activities, right? So in terms of your experience with GCCs, your own GCCs, in terms of how they're contributing to the innovation journey, and what else could they be doing? Any things that you can share with the audience here?
Gaurav, the GCC that is there in India, we have only in Bangalore presence, and it has been there for about 2 decades. Okay, along with the productive evolution, along with the acquisitions we have done, we've also developed a lot of solutions along with our global teams. There has been what I would say is a value-driven journey. How we have been year over year adding a lot of value. We at present contribute to a sizable percentage of our product innovation. Okay, very, very significant. Innovation footprint is number of products that are engineered out of this GCC, ownership, and if I talk about that, development of cloud platform frameworks that power our MA active cloud platform, future ready center of excellences and center of learnings. We have both COE and COL, incubations and cloud operations ownership. We manage cloud operations. Again, this is very, very significant. This has helped us groom and staff key roles. What are the kind of key roles that I'm talking about? Cloud architects, solution consultants, data engineers, distributed computing experts, and similar roles to move up the value chain. And as a GCC, our concept has been we are one team globally. Okay, we are not looking at you do this or I do this kind of thing. We're looking at together we own, together we drive innovation. Strong collaboration has been key to our success in bringing innovation at speed to meet the demands of our customers. So that's what I would say. I mentioned increasing footprint year over year, and for regions which are in our same time zone, we have been delivering even more than what we deliver in terms of deployment, in terms of working with the design leads, etc. For services, then capability centers that we have developed. We have also gamified innovation through hackathons, thinkathons for science and other technology implementations to encourage and accelerate innovation. Okay, this has helped us meet up to the customer demands, develop market-driven innovation. I always talk about we are here because of the customers, and hence we are only looking at what does the customer require and are we able to provide that. Like we deliver today to customers, the go lives at the rate of 1 per day, one go live per day kind of thing, and streaming of code drops to production anytime and anywhere. And so all this across the across all geographies, across the globe. Okay.
Sure.
That's the power of innovation that the India GCC is providing.
Sure. No, great. I know we are starting to touch the timeline, the end of the discussion, but Tushar, quick comments on the role the PayPal GCCs play in terms of driving innovation, and then maybe I have one last question for Ananth after that.
Yeah, so at PayPal, we have 3 locations in India, Hyderabad, Chennai, and Bangalore. All contribute substantially to our overall development, both for our merchant and consumer based ecosystem. One of the things that we've discovered through our journey in creating the GCCs and really making these sites successful is creating that sense of ownership. And so as you think about the agile construct of having product management and Scrum teams working together, we've actually moved, with these specifically in my area, in my domains, we've actually moved core functionalities of services and platforms to India end to end. So there's not only a development organization there, but there are actually product managers as well. And so that really drives a tremendous amount of integration when you have both product and engineering co-located together, and really owning a set of services and or a platform, and really being able to drive innovation. I think a lot of times many folks stand up an Indian development center and location and really make it a staff augmentation of a team that might be in the US, or a functionality or a platform team that exists somewhere else. And so what ends up happening is that they end up just being developers that are contributing versus innovating. And so, you know, for us, the model really seems to be very powerful when you bring product and tech together. And if you think about, like I said, the agile construct, it plays well to that. And really, that really drives a tremendous amount of innovation. And so if you look at our capabilities across Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Chennai, capabilities and product engineering are being developed from those leaders and those teams that are sitting in India. And that really helps drive a tremendous amount of innovation.
Yeah, so that's very true. In fact, that's what we believe at Deloitte as well. In fact, we just released a research report jointly with nasscom on GCCs. And one of the key aspects there is how GCCs can go up the value curve significantly. And I think getting COEs, getting up the innovation curve, R&D is going to be a big focus area for GCCs as well. Ananth, one last quick comment from your side, and we talked about a bunch of things in terms of platform, tech stack, innovation, etc. Anything else that you think from an organization perspective that they can think about while leveraging platform for innovation, or anything that GCCs can do better in terms of helping drive innovation for their organizations?
Yeah, Gaurav, I think I'll keep it short. I think the biggest challenge in innovation today is scaling. I don't think there is any dearth of ideas, no dearth of minimum viable products, POCs, etc. So I think one of the key things that we advocate to our clients, and I'm sure you know that includes GCCs also, is to treat scaling as its own discipline in the innovation journey. So when it comes to the overall innovation process, there is a idea generation unit. Of course, it's part of the organization and different functions. And then you have the business P&Ls. So somewhere we need to create an intermediate scaling function for all these ideas, right? So that is a good practice that we have kind of advocated. And this function has to be decisive in making certain fundamental choices. First and foremost, is it a platform play or is it a application approach? Number one. Number two, if it is a platform play, do you want to create your own platform or actually kind of be part of another platform ecosystem, right? And thirdly, as you kind of try to scale multiple innovations, take a portfolio approach for all these projects, because different innovation projects have different ROIs and break-even time periods, right? So how do you kind of apply a portfolio approach and make it fruitful for the organization? So in a nutshell, I think how do you scale innovation is something that I would like for enterprises to do differently in the coming years, Gaurav.
Sure. No, great. I think, and thank you so much to all of you for bringing in and sharing your perspectives. I think these are all insights I'm sure will benefit a lot of our audience here, and including the GCCs in India. So I think again, if I can summarize the discussion that we had for the last half an hour or so, I think definitely platforms are enabling a lot of innovation because they bring in flexibility, they bring in agility. You can develop small microservices on top of, let's say, the larger platform. Having said that, obviously there are challenges in terms of what can be done, especially if you have to look at, let's say, developing something which is very, very customized, and also depend on where you are in terms of your evolution curve. But at the same time, like Ananth mentioned, I think platforms can give you a lot of scalability to a certain extent. And to me, I think just summing this up in terms of GCCs is that today there is a lot of that tech capability which is sitting in the GCCs, which can actually help drive and contribute to the innovation journey quite a lot than what is potentially happening right now. So I think that's one, nudge that I would leave with the GCC leads to try and see, where they can actually contribute to the entire innovation journey for the global organization, and try and identify those areas and see, how the overall value can be increased from the GCC itself. But thank you so much. Thank you, Usha. Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, Ananth. And thank you, nasscom, again for having us here. Thank you so much.
A big thank you to you too, Gaurav, and to our speakers, Ushasri, Ananth, and Tushar, for that very interesting discussion on technology and platform choices to open up innovation.